DreAllDay.com.
Congratulations on tuning into the show where you learn the discipline to show up day after day, to do the work, the confidence to put yourself out there boldly and authentically, and the mental toughness to continue showing up, doing the work, putting yourself out there, even when the success you have expected to achieve is yet to be achieved. And on top of all this, you get a huge dose of personal initiative. This is that go-getter energy that moves me, you, and everybody else to make things happen instead of waiting for things to happen. You know how that feels? We put all this together. You get the mindset, the method, the podcast, the book, and everything else called Work on Your Game. My name is Dre Baldwin, also known as Dre All Day. Welcome to the show. Today's topic, you are inferior to no one. Yeah, you heard me properly. You know, I meet so many people these days who are, these days and back in the days, even before this podcast began, I meet and have met, and I probably will meet in the future, so many people who are really good at what they do. I mean, they can do the things that they do at a really high level, better than a whole lot of quote unquote known individuals, or better than people even in their little environment who are supposedly the best. They can do it better than those people. But these individuals who I meet, these individuals who I come across, so many of them are operating below their peak, and at the same time not taking much action to move up, to get above that peak. Maybe they're not aware. Actually, most of the time they're very aware that they're operating below their peak, but even though they may even have some rough idea of what they can do to get above the peak, they just don't want to do it. Or get above their current level, to take themselves to a higher level, to push that lid off of their ceiling, so to speak. Like we talked about a few days ago with a Kobe Bryant or Michael Jordan or Steve Jobs. They seem to not really be interested in doing that. Or maybe they're interested, but they don't want to take any serious steps to actually get in there. They're not taking much action to move up. And I talk to these people and I try to find out why. And once we get past the surface stuff, because anytime you ask anybody, why aren't you doing this better than you're already doing it? If it's a person who believes they could be doing it better, you know, the surface stuff. I don't have more help. I'm not as known. My products are not selling. You know, the usual things that people say. Once we get past that, we get to the real reasons. And the real reasons that many people just seem to be operating at suboptimal levels and not even trying to get to the optimal level. Now, some of you are in the process. Some of us will be in the process of trying to get to that higher level, but some people are not at the higher level that they could be at, and they're not even trying to change it. The real reason, when we really get down to it, and they'll admit it, many of them will admit it if you talk to them long enough, is that I just don't see myself as worthy of a higher position. I don't see myself as worthy of stepping it up to that level. I don't see myself as worthy of charging what this person is charging, or charging twice what I'm already charging. Or they'll say something like, I'm not as good as these people out here, or I don't have as much experience as this person out here, or I can't even hear myself asking for that much money or demanding this type of circumstance or situation. These feelings of inferiority is basically what I'm talking about. It's not actual inferiority. It's not that they're actually not better. It's not that their lack of experience or any of the bullshit excuses that some people have sold to themselves and then they go and try to sell to me and everybody else. It's not real inferiority. It's a feeling of inferiority, which you can say is actually real. But that's what's really holding people back, much more than any lack of resource or lack of ability or lack of experience, which are all resources. So what's this definition of this word inferior? Because that's what we're talking about here today. The topic again is you're inferior to nobody. Definition means lower in rank, status, or quality. And many times, if you're a person who works on your game, you deliver, you have performed, you have produced results, you are not lower in rank, status, or quality to anybody, but you may be thinking that you are, which is what's keeping you there. It is the very thought that is leading to the actions or the inactions that are keeping you in that position. In today's episode, the aim of today's episode is to hopefully help get rid of that disease, cure you of that disease. Maybe if not fully, at least get started on it. All right. If I can't get you completely out of the block of ice that you've been frozen into, we can at least start thawing that block out. Okay, that's what we're aiming for today. Point number one. Today's topic, once again, is you are inferior to no one. Stop measuring yourself against the surface trappings of others. Surface trappings, meaning the things that you can see that are supposedly the outward signs of success or achievement or winning or being good. Now, this one is a hard one to do emotionally. It's easy to understand logically, but it's hard for many of us to execute. But I'm gonna keep repeating it to you until you get it. Stop measuring yourself by what you can see on the surface of what other people have or what other people are doing, such as how many followers they have, their material possessions that they're showing you, what their fans are saying about them, what 10 people are saying in their comments. Just like with yourself, and we talked about this a few days ago, other people have a whole lot of other stuff going on in their lives that you don't know nothing about. Just like you got a lot of stuff going on in your lives that your fans and your customers and your whoever, people who see you every day, they don't know anything about these other things that you have going on because you don't talk about them because it's not their business. The same way, those people who you're looking at and comparing yourself to what you see on their surface, they got stuff going on they don't talk about that you don't need to know about because it ain't your business. Looking at them, period, is not your business. So don't compare yourself to others by what you can see, because there's a whole lot that you don't see. See, what you see on another person doesn't make you better or worse than them, because again, there's a whole lot going on under the surface that you'll never know about. Excuse me. Point number 2. Today's topic is you are inferior to no one, especially in the business world. Some people have these emotional blocks around this whole idea of demanding even fair value for their work, let alone unfair value, meaning higher value for their work. A lot of people have just emotional blocks around it. They just don't feel worthy or capable of even doing it. Charging higher prices, not being negotiated down. And in the game group, we go into this one hard, because a lot of people whom I've spoken to, even people I spoke to before the game group came out, a lot of them had this same challenge of lowering their price because people just say that they don't have money, and most of the time they're lying when they say you don't have money. People just seeming incredulous when you have a certain price that seems too high. You naming a price that you think may be quote unquote high, and then that prospect just ghosting you or never calling you back, or just telling you your price is too high, so I gotta go with something else and try to get you to feel that FOMO to lower your price. Listen, we go deep into this in the game group. So any of you ever had this problem of not charging fair value for what you believe your goods and services are worth, the game group, we have some deep dives, and there will be many more in the future where we address this one in deep detail. But here's the basics, people. If you don't have a problem doing the work, meaning producing the results that you produce as a business person or as a fill in the blank, whatever you do, if you don't have a problem putting the effort in and producing the result, then you should not have a problem being compensated for that work. Simple as that. I want to say that one more time. If you don't have a problem doing the work and producing a result for another person, your client or your customer or your audience member or your whoever, then that means you should also not have a problem being fairly compensated for the results that you're producing. And we can flip that around, that if the person that you are doing the work for doesn't have a problem accepting the results that you're producing, they should also not have a problem paying fair value for what you're giving them. And anyone who's not willing to pay fair value for what you're giving them, and what's fair value is determined by the salesperson, not by the buyer. It's kind of determined by both, but really you set the parameters, because I'm talking to you, the salesperson, today, okay? You determine what fair value is, and any of your clients or customers who's not willing to pay that fair value, let them go and go replace them with somebody else. But you got to ingrain this into your mind. You got to have this mindset entrenched within you before you go out into the world, because people will challenge it. People will push against it. And if you fold when they start pushing against it, you're going to be right back in the same place you were already in. And you might as well not even listen to what I'm saying today. If you're willing to do the work and produce the result, you need to be compensated for that produced result. The people who see the value in it and what you're doing, they can and they will pay for it. And those who won't pay, listen, they don't see the value. And that's all right. If they don't see the value, just move on. Because everybody's not going to see the same thing that you see. But you got to be willing to move on. You have to be willing to walk away. Listen to my episode here where I talked about your willingness to walk away is the most important power that you have in life. Is anything you're not willing to walk away from, that means you're just going to accept suboptimal suboptimal circumstances. And the more of those that you accept and the longer that you accept them, the more they just become normal to you, to the point that you don't even realize that you've accepted something that you didn't even want. So your power to walk away is the most powerful skill that you have in business and in life in general. If you didn't hear that episode, again, the archive is at dreallday.com/podcast. Point number 3. Today's topic is you are inferior to no one. Understand, ladies and gentlemen, that we live in a buy and sell world where many things are far from objective. Damn near nothing in life is really objective. Even when we think we're being objective, most things are not. Value, price, and worth. Those 3 words. Value. Someone says, I'm giving you a $100 value for $50. Someone says the price of this phone is $899. Someone says I'm worth $17 an hour. Value, price, and worth. These 3 terms, anytime anybody uses any of them, they are all highly, 100%. That's how high. When I say highly, I mean 100% subjective. In other words, they exist only in the mind. Yeah, you heard me right. Value exists in your mind. Now, someone can plant a value in your mind. It exists because someone planted it there, but it's in your mind. There's nothing objective about it. You can't pull out a ruler or a tape measure or a scale and say, okay, the value is this because it is. Unless we're talking about the gold bricks. Price exists in your mind. Worth exists in your mind. These are all stories. Value, price, and worth are just the stories that we tell ourselves, the stories that we tell other people, and the stories that other people accept or reject. And or we flip it around, stories that other people tell us that we accept or reject. When someone tells us this is worth $10 and we buy it, that means we bought the story. Someone says this is worth $10 and you say, hell no, that thing ain't worth more than $2. You've rejected the story. But somebody else might come up right behind you and they buy the story and they pay for it. So everything in life that gets bought and sold is just based on the story in the mind of the seller and the story in the mind of the buyer. When those stories match, a sale happens, a transaction takes place. When those stories don't match, a sale does not happen. Now that may mean you need to change your story, or it may just mean you need to tell the story to a different person. Now that's the hustle. That's when you got to decide mentally you got to be hustling, but physically also you got to hustle. You might need to just change up your story to get that same person to agree with you now. Same price, just different story. Notice what I said, same price, different story. I mean, you think about a singer think about Beyonce. When she came out, she was in a group called Destiny's Child. There were 4 of them in the group. Then it was 3 of them in the group, and then Beyonce went solo. Now, between the time they were in a group of 4 people and the time that Beyonce's a solo artist right now, I think she probably charges a little bit more money now individually than even her whole group could command when she first came out back in the late 90s, early 2000s. Would you agree? Yes? All right. Now, is Beyonce that much better of a singer now than she was back then? Maybe. Maybe she has gotten marginally better, incrementally better, but I guarantee you the amount that she charges now is way more. The increase in charge and price for Beyonce is way more than the improvement she's made as a performer, as a singer. I mean her actual singing skills. I'm not talking about the show and the choreography and the dance moves. I'm talking about her actual singing skills. They haven't improved as much as her price is going up. So what's the difference? What changed? How could her improvement not be at the same pace of her price? See, a lot of people think that they got to improve at the same pace of their price. No, you don't. All you got to do is tell a different story. See, Beyonce's story changed. When the story changed, the price went up. And you can look around at anyone who's made a quote unquote come up in anything that they do. When the story changes, the price changes. The value changes, the worth changes. And if you get enough people to agree with that story, then look, you'll get the price. That's how it works, people. That's all it is. This is all 100% subjective, meaning it is based on people's opinions. How do you get other people to change their opinion about you? The first step is to change your opinion about yourself, because people's opinion about you is based on how you present yourself to them. Meaning whatever you think about you is how you present yourself, and that's how other people will perceive you, and that's how other people will deal with you. I did a whole episode on that subject as well. Again, dreallday.com/podcast. We live in a buy and sell world, ladies and gentlemen. This applies not only, and as I've already explained here, using Beyonce as an example, this does not apply just to objects, it applies to people. We spend more money on luxury items. Why? Is the luxury item necessarily that much better than the brand X item? Not necessarily, oftentimes, not at all. Oftentimes the exact same thing. What's the difference then? Why do we spend more money on it? Because when we buy a luxury item, now in our minds, we can tell a story that we did it because it makes us feel a certain way. The way that we feel is the story that we tell ourselves. The way that we know other people will perceive us when they see us with the luxury item is a story that we tell ourselves. And the way that we feel about that story will cause us to spend more money and make a bigger investment simply because we want that story. We value that story that much. That's how luxury items sell. It's not that they're necessarily that much better in quality. Napoleon Hill said, and I believe it was in The Law of Success, one of my favorite personal development books, he said, if you take a shirt, a dress shirt, and you put it in a bin with let's say you take a dress shirt that costs $75, right? $75 dress shirt, and you put it in the discount bin with all the other cheap discount shirts, there's no way you will ever get $75 for that shirt. You would have to charge $10 because anybody who walks past that discount bin, they see a bunch of $10 discount bin shirts. You would never be able to charge $75 for a shirt out of the discount bin. But if you took any of the shirts out of the discount bin and you put it with the designer shirts that cost $100, you get $100 for that shirt that you were just charging $10 for. Why is that? Is it because people are idiots and they have really no idea objectively of what they're looking at? Yes, that's why. And I'm talking about me, I'm talking about you, I'm talking about everybody. Most of us, actually not most of us, all of us, we are not that discerning when it comes to deciding the real value of something, what something really is worth, the real quality of a product or a service or a person or anything. We are not as good at it as we think we are. We think we can just look, we think nobody can deceive me, nobody can show me, I know the value of everything that I'm buying. No, we don't know anything. We go off of the atmosphere of things. We go off of the story that item or that person tells, the atmosphere around that person, the way that item or person or service or product is presented. That's the story that is given to us. We accept the story and then we make the decision. Do I like this story enough to invest this much or do I not? And that's the only way that we buy or don't buy. That's how buying and selling works. It's just a story that we tell ourselves. There is a person out there rather, who would coach you. Any of you who was ever looking for a coach, there's a person out there who would coach you for the next 30 days for $500 in cash. $500 they'll coach you for 30 days, and they may be a very, very good coach. You may learn a lot, you may get a lot of information, you may write them a glowing testimonial. For $500 they coached you and it went great. There's another person out there who will coach you for 30 days as well. They're gonna charge you $5,000. Now, if you hired a $5,000 person, the story is a little bit different than if you hired the $500 person. And here's what I know to be true. You are more likely to take that coaching seriously when you pay $5,000 than you pay $500. Why? It's because the $5,000 person is going to force you to pay attention. They're going to force you to take them seriously. Do they just command more of your respect? Not necessarily. The $500 person might be better than the $5,000 person. But you're going to pay more attention to the $5,000 person. Why? Because you invested more in it. The story that you tell yourself about your money, your $5,000, makes you pay a lot more attention than the $500 person that you invested in. It's just a different story. It's 10 times the money, it's 10 times the story. Not because one coach is better than the other coach, because of the story behind your decision to make that investment. See, the story that we tell ourselves, ladies and gentlemen, is what we decide on as the truth. So when people say that they're just, quote unquote, just stating facts, they're not stating any facts. All they're doing is telling their own story. They're telling their personal facts. So actually they are stating facts, but not objective facts. They're telling subjective facts, their facts. And we all have our own realities. Our reality is negotiable. There's a whole episode on that as well. The story that we tell ourselves is what we decide on is our truth, and then we go tell other people, this is the truth, these are the facts, look, because it's all we can see. So if you change the story that you tell yourself about you, other people will change their story about you. But you got to be willing to change the story first. You got to believe the story second, and then you got to keep telling the story third. I need to do a whole episode on that alone. Let's recap today's topic, which is you are inferior to no one. And I meet so many people who are really good at what they do. Better than a whole lot of people at what they do, but they're operating below their peak level, and they know that they're operating there. And once I really get to talk to them and they give me the real reasons, is that they don't see themselves as worthy of a certain position or worthy of a certain price, or they don't think they're as good as certain other people, or they don't have the experience, a whole bunch of feelings of inferiority basically coming out. So today, we want to talk about how to get over that inferiority, or at least get started in the right direction. Point number one, stop measuring yourself against the surface trappings of other people. Such as how many followers, material, possessions. Don't compare about what you see, because there's a lot of stuff going on in other people's lives that you don't know about, the same way there's a lot of stuff going on in your life that other people don't know about. Point number two, especially in the business world, people have emotional blocks against demanding fair value for their work, such as charging higher prices, not being negotiated down. In the game group, we have gone deep into this, and we'll be going deeper in the future. But here's the basics. If you don't have a problem doing the work and delivering the result, then you shouldn't have a problem demanding fair value for your work. And if a person doesn't have a problem taking it from you, they shouldn't have a problem paying for it. And those who won't pay, there are others who will. Move on, leave those people behind. There are 8 billion people on the planet. Point number three, we live in a buy and sell world where things are far from objective. Everybody thinks they're objective. Nobody's objective, even when we think we're being objective. Value, price, and worth are all highly subjective terms, meaning they only exist in our mind. We spend more money on luxury items, not because the luxury item is necessarily better, but so we can tell the story that we bought the luxury item. There's a person out there who'll coach you for $500. They may be great. There's another person who'll coach you for $5,000. They are no different than the $500 person. But if you hire a $5,000 person, you will pay more attention, you will listen more, you will apply more of what that $5,000 person says, not because they're better, not because they're smarter, not because they have a larger vocabulary, because the story that you tell yourself about your $5,000 is a different story than what you tell yourself about $500. This means you're just gonna pay a little bit more attention. Beyonce, when she came out with Destiny's Child, she was charging X. Nowadays, when she's solo, she's charging 300 times X. Did she get 300 times better as a singer? Probably not. So why is the price 300 times higher? Because the story changed. When the story changed, everything else changes with it. If you change the story that you tell yourself about you, other people will change the story that they tell themselves about you, and therefore they'll take different actions. Now, what's going on in the game group? We talk about this story that you're telling yourself on a day-to-day basis. If you want to know what it is, look at yourself in the mirror, look at your life, look at your friends, look at your actions, look at your habits, look at the way people respond to you. That's all a reflection of the story that you've been telling yourself. In the game group, we go deep into what is that story, where did it come from, uncovering the parts of the story that you don't like, changing the parts of the story that you don't like, writing the story that you actually want, and then putting that story putting it into actual, what's the word I'm looking for here? Putting it into your life. All right, putting it to work, putting it to practice. Whether this could be just your personal overall life, this could be your business life, you're an athlete, it could be your sports life, but that story is basically everything. The way that you live your life is based on the story that you've been telling yourself. So if you want to change any part of your life, that means the story has to change. So first of all, we got to figure out what parts of the story are wrong. And this is what I talked about in yesterday's episode. It's not so much that we need to add a whole bunch of things in. It's elimination, people. We got to get rid of some stuff. Now, you're already at full capacity, so we got to get rid of some things to create some space for the things that need to be. And we don't need to replace everything that gets eliminated with something new, because then you'd be right back in the same positions with the same problem. So we need to get rid of some things, create some space for the things that need room to breathe. They need some elbow room, all right? You ever seen any of those food documentaries with the chickens and the cows that can't turn around? All right, we don't need your brain to be like that. We need some space. We need some room to graze. Okay? That's what's going on in the game group. Again, disciplines that get enacted to create strategies, put the strategies to work to produce results. All the information on the game group is at dreallday.com/game group. Work on your game. dreallday.com.